Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to look at how do you update the UI after returning from an OkHttp callback. Alright, so as a reminder, the main thread, if you want to find out what's the main thread ID, I could do this logd and I could do thread dot get current thread dot get ID, for example, right? So that gets me the ID of the current thread. I'm just going to print it right here. And I'm going to print it also right here on the when you get a response, right? So I'll do that and I'll just change this to be on response. Now when we run this creates this method we used in the previous video, which creates a contact, right? So it doesn't have to be called create contact. Maybe I can call get contacts. Just okay, here it is. So basically get contacts is the simplest. It is a simple URL. Here it is, and it doesn't have any forms, right? So this is get contacts. Right, so basically this is this. Here we are. Let's say it doesn't return anything. Yeah, all these methods will not return anything. But anyhow, so this is like this, and we do here, and it just gets the contact. So basically, get your contacts, and I am calling it like this. I'll say get contacts. It's a get method. There is no post. You run it, and basically it's going to get you the list of contacts, right? So when you do this, you go to the logcat. And here it is. It's going to give you the list of contacts, whatever is when returned here, right? Okay. So basically, that's this. Now, what if I, on the layouts here, I want to tell you that the contacts that were received are, how many contacts were received. So now what I could do is I could go here and let's look at the layout for this activity. Okay. And let's add just the text view in the middle of the screen. And this text view will be just in the maybe at the top of the screen. Let's put it at the top of the screen. Here we are, and we'll call it, for example, text view, say for example count. Okay, all right, so that's this, and then we just give this guy a little bit of a padding. Let's say padding, let's say 10 dp, just to push things a little bit down. Here it is. So here's the text view, and I am going to update this here. So let's go back here. We'll create a text view variable. Here it is, and in the onCreate, I am going to onCreate under this. I'll say the text view equals find view by id r.id dot text view. Here it is, the text view count. Now, where do I update the count? So let's say, what if I can get it here? So basically, how do I know how many users are there? It's the number of lines, right? It's the number of lines. So it's each line is a contact. So just for me to find the number of contacts, all I have to do is I already have the body, which is all these strings. I can split it. So I could do string items, right? And then I could say body dot split based on the new line, right? So basically that gets me this, and then I could do this. I could say text view count dot set text. I could say, for example, we'll say items dot length plus I'll say, for example, contacts, something like that, right? Can I do that? The problem is that if we run this, let me just not do this now, right now. But if we run this, let's run it. Something to remind you of. So when I run it, I didn't update the text. You see, I commented it out. But if you look at demo or the /demo, now you see the thread ID for the on response is 1607, right? What's the thread ID for the on create? So basically, let's have it for the on create also. The thread ID for the on create is what? Let's run it. You will see that the thread ID for the on create is not 1607 because this is the main thread. This is number 2 is the main thread, right? Okay. So basically, the interesting thing is that, or you can do it another way. You could say, for example, thread dot is. You could say main thread, current thread, and you say main thread, or is UI thread is. No, not this one. So there is one of the methods can tell you is main thread. It's the current thread, active thread, current thread dot, and one of them is a boolean that tells you is this the main thread or no. anyhow, we got the ID. Let's get, I think it is alive is interrupted. Get ID, get name, ID, code exception, blah blah blah. So anyway, so you could see that I can find the ID, and I know that this is the main thread. This runs on the main thread, right? So when I run it, you will see that the on create the ID is 2, and the on response the ID is 1616. Different. Why? Because this is a child thread. It's not the main thread. Now I can do it. Can I do this? Can I, here I am inside the child thread. Can I do this? Can I say that the text view count.text equals this? Can I change the UI? So let's see what happens when I do this. It's going to tell you something. Let's see. So you run this. Yeah, it will work. However, it will tell you, here it is. See, it tells you what? Only original thread that created the view hierarchy can touch its views. All right? And it caused the fatal exception and blah, blah, blah. So basically, this is a problem, right? The problem is because you are trying to change the UI in the child thread, not in the main thread. So to do it, I can do it like this. I could come here and say, for example, run on my UI thread, and it needs to see run on UI thread. It needs a runnable, new runnable. Here is the runnable. Here is the runnable. And I can do this stuff here. Can I do that here? Okay. Now it's not happy because these items is only scoped inside here. So a lot of you, what they do is they go in and they change it to final, right? So if you go here and make it final, that would fix this problem. So now when you run it, you will see now it's going to work. And here it says you have 10 contacts, right? Now, why some of you will also think that, okay, why not I just make this function return this number? The problem is that this function, all what it does, it schedules the request. It doesn't actually run the request. It just schedules the request. It will exit. So if you go here, let's say we do the log D here after that, get contacts end, right? So that's get contacts end, right? And this get contacts start, okay? So what's going to happen is that when you call get contacts, get called, and then it schedules the request, right? And it will end. And then after some time, the response will come back, and then this is going to execute. So this function, it cannot return anything. It's not going to return the contacts for you. The contacts are going to be available inside the callback, right? So now let's run it and see and look at the logcat. Okay, perfect. So what is happening is, look here. Okay, let's do the d/demo. All right. See here, get contacts started. See here it is. Get contacts start. So it started. Okay, this line got called. Then you schedule the request, and then you end. It ends. And then after that, you got a response, and here is your response. So basically, the interesting thing is that the get contacts is in the main thread, but then the problem is that it schedules a child thread, and that child thread will execute, and when it comes back, it will come back and it gives you the response here. Still in the child thread. Then you have to send it back to the main thread. So I can do it like this. Does that make sense? So now, another thing to think about is that, okay, this is a list of users. How can I generate a list of users and then transfer this list of users back to the main activity? Same story. Very, very similar situation. But this is to keep in mind that this method is, all what this method does is that it creates the request and schedules it and then leaves. It does not receive, this method actually does not receive the response. The response is received in the callback, in the on failure or in the on response. And the on failure and the on response are not running in the main thread. They are running on the child thread. All right? But it's all of this is taken care of by the library. You don't have to create async tasks and so on to schedule these network calls. All right. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.